Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the chair for giving me the opportunity to present my paper. The motivation of this paper is I was asked one question at the end of my PhD defense, that you are only focusing on one organization and you should look into an interorganizational context. So I thought about it for 2-3 years, and then I thought, okay, maybe I can document my findings in some sort of a paper. So I would like to share with you a theory on interorganizational knowledge management theory. Because my research was mostly in organizations such as railways and semiconductor industry, it's much more practical way of looking at the topic of knowledge management rather than theoretical. And when we talk about organizations, we know that they rely a lot on knowledge for decisions, reliability, and organizational learning. But we also know that within one organization it's always a complex subject, knowledge management, and when we add inter-organizational context to it, it becomes even more complex. You're talking about multiple cultures, different incentives, different KPIs in the organizations, and different systems they are working with. One organization is working with the teams and the other is working with a sub, and how are you going to make sure that the knowledge is transferring from one organization to another. And within the knowledge management field, we all know that the tacit knowledge transfer is a key topic on how do we make sure that we share tacit knowledge with each other. So that is the problem motivation. When we look into the objectives, of course, it was to see, okay, what are some of the key elements when we are talking about knowledge management in an interorganizational context. The method here is literature review. 5 interviews were done with the key knowledge experts, and my own experiences as a result of 4 years of long research in how can we share lessons learned, how do we manage knowledge, and in 2 different operational roles as maintenance engineer and technical facility manager on how are we doing it in the organization itself. The sectors, like I mentioned, are railways and semiconductor. And it talks about, so when we talk about interorganizational knowledge management, I think we need to also look into it from 6 core elements. So it's like an onion model. So you are going from like embedded knowledge that is present in the organization. It can be in the form of people that are there, the systems, the documents. It can be tacit or explicit, but it is present there. And if you want it to flow, there needs to be trust. So there needs to be an organizational trust to achieve any flow of knowledge from origination to reuse. Then it also needs to be applicable in that operational context. We need to acknowledge that it can be applied in that context. It's the same as when we are designing an algorithm for an AI. It needs to be able to solve all the problems. We just need to put it into an environment, and it should be able to figure out a solution. So operational context is very, very critical there. Once you have knowledge embedded and you have trust and you understand the context, you can then think of what are the complexities that are we have to deal with when we're talking about collaboration. So for example, in the railway sectors, we came across a challenge that the infrastructure manager that is responsible for maintaining the tracks and stations had a different KPIs than the service organization that was running the trains. So if they don't have the same KPIs, how are they going to share knowledge with each other and make sure that we do not repeat the same mistakes? Similarly, the technology element. So now we have a lot of knowledge management platforms, AI. What does all that do to our knowledge management in the organization? And finally, the leadership activation. So I will go a little bit deeper into them. Many of them you are already aware of. So like I said, embedded knowledge can be tacit or explicit. It's in the people or routines. Enablers there, we all know storytelling, peer exchange. Framework that I developed in my research, I also wrote down here, I should have been more careful. It talks about leaves and learnability, embraceability, applicability, and findability of knowledge. Those are 4 important facets when you're talking about sharing knowledge from one source to another. If you go to the organizational trust, there is a lot of people feel like, okay, if I share this knowledge, especially in the organizations, if I share what I know, then I am becoming redundant and my job is not needed anymore. So people are hoarding knowledge. There is also the idea of, okay, I do not trust what will be done with this knowledge in the organization. So there is a cultural element, there is a technological element to it. I did some research also into looking at how can we use blockchain to have a same database of knowledge between the suppliers of the trains and the operators and the maintainers, so they all agree what is the status of perform maintenance, what is the knowledge, so that they can build trust with each other. Enablers here are of course transparent validation that of course technologies like blockchain can facilitate, also digital trust mechanisms. Operational context I think is very critical, especially from industry standpoint. From theoretical standpoint, we are not really paying that much attention to it, but in industry, one thing that I've heard a lot in my 4 years of PhD research was like, yeah, theory is different from practice. Theory is different from practice. And I did not really understand what it means, but what it means is more like you have to understand the workflows, the culture that is going on in an organization. If there is a escalation, if there is operational issue, they are not going to worry about learning from it, but fixing it. So we need to make solutions that can help enable that. Interorganizational trainings is one way. You can think of aligned processes. Spend a lot of time in making sure all the processes, the RAKIs, so RAKI I mean responsible, accountable, support, consult, inform, those are worked out, the processes are worked out. Once we have that, we go to the collaborative complexity. Here I'm talking about you can have overlapping roles, you can have fragmented systems. In system integration, for instance, we see that the funding is fragmented. One organization is only given money by the government for that specific part, and the other for the other part. So nobody's caring about the overlap in between, and that's where the system is failing. That's where the public is seeing that, for example, the railway sector is not doing good, things like that. Also here, aligned processes, roles and responsibilities can help. Technological mediation, I think here we are talking about digital platforms supported by AI, supported by other digital tools, Internet of Things. Important is that those systems are not top-down. That okay, this is the system from tomorrow you are going to work like that. It's not embraced on a ground floor, on a workflow. We need to do them bottom-up. There's a lack of integration between systems. So you have a Power BI tool here, you have a SharePoint site there, and you have another augmented reality solution somewhere else. It's not coming up together. You are not able to benefit from it. Thank you. So yeah, I think it's important to have semantic interoperability, contextual AI in this case. And finally, leadership activation. So it's talking about knowledge management is also political and symbolic and not just operational. I wanted to, how does that fit into a knowledge flow? You see that here, origination of knowledge, it goes from framing an intent all the way to feedback and looping and reuse, and I show how these 6 elements also collaborate in that knowledge flow. So just giving an example, you can see that interpretation and use of knowledge is also connected with operational context and embedded knowledge. Due to lack of time, what's the difference between the well-known SCCI framework and the Interorganizational Knowledge Management? Well, SCCI assumes one shared culture, and this theory is focusing on inter-organizational context. That is the added value here, and it tries to say like, okay, how can you, SCCI assumes harmony while this accepts the multi-stakeholder setting and tries to propose how you can work together. Similarly, another well-known work by Snowden on Sinefel framework. What's the difference between that and this theory? Yeah, this prescribes action, and that one is more diagnosing the problem. This is chaotic, this is simple, this is complex. This gives you an action plan on how you can address that. What are the implications? Yeah, diagnose breakdowns in cross-organizational knowledge flow for practitioners, for researchers, foundation for empirical validation of these concepts, and future is AI-enabled knowledge management. We all know that. Concluding it, I think this theory provides a structured architecture for knowledge flow between organizations. It gives you 6 enablers that we can further develop in the field and supports learning and reliability of system performance. I thank you for your time.